Hello, everybody. How you all are doing tonight? We got a nice little radio special all worked up for you. We got the residents. We got other special guest stars. How about that? Well, here we go.
Once I went to Barstow, then I went to bed. First my friend was with me, then my friend was dead. All his clothes were burned up, and his thighs were red. After all we've been through, what more can be said?
And there they are, ladies and gentlemen, the residents from San Francisco. This is Sid Powell in the RAO studios in Houston, Texas. I'm here with Mr. J. Clem, representative of Ralph Records. The residents themselves are in the studio with us, but are refusing to join us in the interview. They are apparently content to walk around the studio banging on instruments and making strange noises. Now, perhaps Mr. Clem will tell us the very interesting story behind the selection we just heard, Death in Barstow, from the residents' EP, Baby Fingers.
Glad to, Sid. Baby Fingers was originally the third side of Fingerprints, the Residents' latest album. The Residents had recorded a three-sided LP to be released as such. Ralph Records disapproved this action due to the economic infeasibility, and a compromise was reached in which this extra material was pressed into an EP and is included with the Fingerprints Collector's Edition.
Well, that's very interesting. Perhaps you can explain another story then, Mr. Clem. I understand that the residents simply hate and abhor the Beatles. What can you say about that?
Sid, that's absolutely false. The Residents do not hate the Beatles. They have simply expressed an attitude which indicates boredom with the present-day rock and roll culture.
All right, then, perhaps you can explain to me why the rumor is currently running rampant through Australia that the Beatles are, in fact, the residents.
Such a rumor exists, Sid, because Ram Magazine in Australia published a story supporting the argument that the Residents are, in fact, the Beatles.
But this is, of course, untrue.
It's absolutely untrue, Sid.
But then maybe it explains why the residents have released their new single with a Beatles song right on it.
Well, it may or may not explain that, Sid. It just so happens, though, the Residents did record Flying, a Beatles tune from the Magical Mystery Tour album. You may be more interested to know, however, that the Beatles themselves perform a Residents song on the flip side of this very same record.
Aha! It must have been really tough to get those lads back in the studio again.
Tough it was, Sid. In fact, the Beatles don't even know they were there.
Let us hear this controversial new single right now.
We'll be back to the resident special in a moment.
Yes.
one more time, this time playing Satisfaction. Once again, they've butchered up an old-time hit. I'm Sid Powell here in the RAO studios with Jay Clem, representative of Ralph Records. Mr. Clem, did indeed the residents perform this music live last year?
That's right, Sid. Last year at the Rather Ripped Records 5th annual birthday party, the residents made their second ever live appearance, an appearance in which they actually appeared as mummies and were assisted by the appearance of Arp and Omega Berry, the Siamese twin tag team wrestlers.
Siamese twin tag team wrestlers indeed. Well, perhaps you can explain to me why they don't perform more often, Mr. Clem. Is perhaps the show as bad as the music?
Indeed not, Sid, although it could appear to be that way to the lesser intelligent members of the audience. The simple fact is that residents are a bit reluctant to expose themselves in public.
Well, let's hear some more of this residents' music.
Okay.
Legs are social traits like the names of those foreign faces. What more could he do? He polished up the deli, spread and put his mother back in bed, and then he went home too.
And that was Loser is Congruent to Weed, the flip side of the resident single, Satisfaction. Now, Mr. Clem, I've read that Trouser Press magazine has referred to Satisfaction as the most determinedly repellent music ever heard. Can you comment on this?
I'll be glad to, Sid. I can certainly see the point of view for that contention. I think, however, the key word here is determinedly. One should question the purpose or intent of this work, and if they do, I'm sure that they will agree that this is, in fact, the most determinedly repellent music ever heard.
Well, is there then any truth to the rumor that the residents are very seldom seen out in the daytime?
Quite true, Sid. The fact is we frequently have to have their food sent in to them.
Now, don't you feel a little foolish in this position? You're no more than babysitters to a group of malcontented young fops.
Be that as it may, Sid, we here at Ralph Records and the Cryptic Corporation support the residents in their point of view concerning the sorry state of affairs of this culture. We further feel that it's necessary to take certain supportive action to ensure that the residents, as well as other artists like them, are able to exist and to function in this culture, which will in turn ensure that the culture has a future rather than having only a past.
Well, maybe you have a point there. Let's get on with some more of this so-called music. Now we have the residents' Melon, Collie, Lassie from the EP Baby Fingers.
to see the side of sea, and then they float from one to some. Forever while she washes, all her clothes are never clean. And if you ask her where you are, it tends to make her mean.
More information on the residence music is available in a free catalog from Ralph Records, 444 Grove Street, San Francisco, California, 94102. We'll be back after station identification.
Okay, we are back in the RAO studios in Houston. This is Sid Powell with Mr. J. Clem, representative of Ralph Records. During the next few minutes, we will be hearing some of the early Residence material. The first selections will be a medley from the 1972 release Santa Dog. Mr. Clem, can you comment on this Santa Dog?
Sure enough, Sid, Santa Dog was the Residents' first press record. It represents their 1972 Christmas card, as well as being the first official Ralph Records release.
Well, I understand that the last few copies of this recording went for the ridiculous price of $25. Is this true?
Absolutely true, Sid. In fact, it was quite a deal at $25. I understand if somebody wanted to buy one today, they'd have to go as high as 50 smackaroos.
Well, wonders never cease. Let's hear some of this Santa Dog.
Santa dogs at Jesus' feet, Santa dogs at Jesus' feet, Santa dogs at Jesus' feet. There's no presents in the future. In the future. Flitting in the slitting sin of snows and of slivs. Flitting in the slitting sin of snows and of slivs. Flitting in the slitting sin of snows and of slivs. Flitting in the slitting sin of snows and of slivs. Flitting in the slitting sin of snows and of slivs. Fleeting in the sleeting scene of slowness ever sleeves. Fleeting in the greeting scene of effervescent eves. Greeting in the meeting team of verse and frosty words. Greeting in the cheating team and other noxious verse. Sitting sailors, known as Santa slaves. Flitting and a sitting sailors, known as Santa slaves. Santa dogs at Jesus' feet, Santa dogs at Jesus' feet, Santa dogs at Jesus' feet. There's no presents in the future. In the future. Santa dogs at Jesus' feet, Santa dogs at Jesus' feet, Santa dogs at Jesus' feet.
When everyone lives in the future, left a pile of turkey very near a little Spanish town. And every day the big cranberries peer into the mouths of Marys, being held for nothing more than being what was there before all this happened.
Do you ever wonder who you are? Kick a cat. Kick a cat.
Kick a cat today!
Fish or dumb, take an eye from one. Kick a cat.
Kick a cat today!
Fish or dumb, take an eye from one. Kick a cat.
Kick a cat today!
Fish or dumb, take an eye from one. Kick a cat.
Kick a cat today!
Fish or dumb, take an eye from one.
Kick a cat today!
Fish or dumb, take an eye from one.
Next, we travel further back in time to the days of the Residents' very beginning. Now, I understand that the Residents at this time were working with and highly influenced by two figures, the mysterious Ensenada and the British guitar player Snakefinger Lithman.
That's right, Sid. Let's talk about Snakefinger Lithman first. Snakefinger had caught word of the Residents' experimental music and tape recording work they were doing at the time, and incidentally, Sid, some of these Residents' tapes are said to have found their way into Germany back in the early 70s and actually influenced some of the early German avant-gardists.
Aha!
Anyway, one day Snakefinger arrived in San Mateo, California, where the Residents had their studios at that time, and they began to get acquainted and did some work and actually produced some very interesting tapes.
Well, let's hear some of this Snakefinger. Now we'll have the Residents doing Frank Zappa's King Kong with Snakefinger Lithman on guitar. Now, Mr. Clem, I understand that the mysterious Ensenada was highly influential on the Residents' philosophic background. Now, how can this be, since he has been said to speak no English?
Well, Sid, it is true that the mysterious Ensenada spoke very little, if any, English. However, he did find the English language quite fascinating, and he was quite fluent verbally as well as musically, employing the theory of phonetic organization. A synthesis of the two produced very good results in the situation. It was this musical implementation of phonetic organization that was so highly influential on the residents' music.
Now, wait just a minute. Perhaps we should hear just a little bit more about this phonetic organization.
Okay, Sid, I'll try to give you a little bit about that. Now, it's a little tough to try to explain in English, but if I actually implement the theory of phonetic organization, I can just come like this.
Well, perhaps we should hear it from the mysterious Ensenada himself. Here he is with the residents doing Kamikazie Lady.
For free catalog of the Residence Records, write to Ralph Records, 444 Grove Street, San Francisco, California, 94102. Stay tuned for more of the Residence Special.
This is still Sid Powell in the RAO studios with Jay Clem, representative of Ralph Records. We've just heard one more of the residents' songs, Whoopy Snorp. Can you comment on this one, Mr. Clem?
Yeah, Sid. Whoopy Snorp is part of the album entitled Blorp Is Said, a production by the Los Angeles Free Music Society. The usage of this song was donated by the Cryptic Corporation to Lapham's for that purpose.
And as I understand it, this album contains quite a few selections, all performed by typical California idiots.
Yeah, well, Sid, possibly typical California idiots if you're a typical dumb Texas redneck bigot.
Well, now, as I understand it, the residents have a new project in the works. It concerns the Eskimo culture and, once again, this mysterious Ensenada. What's the connection?
The connection, Sid, is that our longtime associate, the mysterious Ensenada, has been residing for some time at the North Pole and living with the Eskimos. Recently in the mail, the Inn sent to the residents a cassette tape comprised of various audibles connected with various cultural festivities, which are a very integral part of the Eskimo culture. It is upon this very concept that the residents have set about to do their next album.
And you mean to tell me that you actually believe this fabrication?
Sid,
that these residents
Sid,
came to you with this story and you went for it?
I personally know the mysterious Ensenada very well. I know him to be a very distinguished gentleman of unquestioned credibility. I personally have heard these tapes, and I will personally verify to their authenticity.
Now wait just a minute. Let's get something straight here. Why are these residents walking around this room?
Yeah, let's get it straight. What they're doing, Sid, is performing for you their very most recent composition, which they were so gracious enough to do to help us out with this radio special, just like we agreed. And here you go trying to put something down that you don't even understand.
Now look here, you might go for that, you might swallow that, but I don't.
Yeah, well, that's your shortcoming, Sid. I'm sorry.
Oh, look, at least they're doing something.
You don't have the scope to appreciate this thing. That's your hang-up.
Well, now, wait a minute. Let's come on here now.
You come on.
Why won't they sit down here and interview with us? Why won't they
they are more interested in the art than they are the personal exposure. They're not into this for glory. They're into it for the betterment of our culture.
Well, now, we've got one more thing to do here. We got to get in the residents playing one more song. On the EP, baby. Get out of
Walter Westinghouse went to town. He found a friend today. His friend was peeling sealing wax as he heard Walter say,
"Love me tender, love me sweet, love me like I love my feet. Sit me down with Ezra Pound, but don't forget to eat. Cause a country boy to cook a carrot or a cake, but don't forget the feelings of a friend are hard to fake."
as the bacon, and aching in his heart is due to overcoats and Quaker oats, and if his wife should sue.
Wanda, Wanda, where you went, and tell me what'd you take? But, my dear, I think I fear that you had lost your way.
Your trust is like a crust, too brittle and too thin.
Is common ground not ever found but flees from dad to son? Or is it just believing that the evening steals the sun? Oh dear, eat exuding oinks upon and bleed decrepit broken bones at caustic spells of hell. Eat exuding oinks upon and bleed decrepit broken bones at caustic spells of hell. Yes, eat exuding oinks upon and bleed decrepit broken bones at caustic spells of hell. Eat exuding oinks upon and bleed decrepit broken bones at caustic spells of hell. Eat exuding oinks upon and bleed decrepit broken bones at caustic spells of hell. Eat exuding oinks upon and bleed decrepit broken bones at caustic spells of hell. Eat exuding oinks upon and bleed decrepit broken bones at caustic spells of hell. Eat exuding oinks upon and bleed decrepit broken bones at caustic spells of hell. Eat exuding oinks upon and bleed decrepit broken bones at caustic spells of hell. Eat exuding oinks upon and bleed decrepit broken bones at caustic spells of hell. Eat exuding oinks upon and bleed decrepit broken bones at caustic spells of hell. Eat exuding oinks upon and bleed decrepit broken bones at caustic spells of hell.
He sees the threads of worn out treads and calls his color true, 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 and calls his color true.
The Resident Special was produced by the Cryptic Corporation in cooperation with RAO Studios, Houston, Texas. Copyright 1977, The Cryptic Corporation. All rights reserved. For free catalog of the Residence records, write Ralph Records, 444 Grove Street, San Francisco, California, 94102.